Our top story, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has departed for the United States. This visit makes the Prime Minister Modi just the third world leader after France's Emmanuel Macron and South Korea's Yeol to be invited by President Biden for a state visit and dinner. A roadmap for defense industrial cooperation is expected to be the key outcome of Narendra Modi's US visit. Amid China's territorial ambitions, Washington is working to deepen ties with the world's largest democracy and seize deeper military-to-military and technology ties. Here's what the Indian Foreign Secretary said.
The next key component which will also be showcased prominently during the visit is the bilateral defense cooperation. It has been a critical pillar of our engagement, and within that a new element this year during this visit we expect is the progress on defense industrial cooperation roadmap.
The Indian Prime Minister's visit will begin in New York, where he will lead the celebrations of the International Day of Yoga at the UN headquarters on the 21st of June. Starting in 2014, the International Day of Yoga has become one of the major events in the annual calendar of activities of the United Nations. In New York, Prime Minister Modi will also interact with eminent personalities. Washington, D.C., meanwhile, will roll out the red carpet on the 22nd of June when Joe Biden hosts Narendra Modi. The U.S. President will hold bilateral talks with the Indian Prime Minister. The Biden administration is all set to sign a deal that would allow US-based General Electric to produce engines for military aircraft on Indian soil. While India can manufacture jets domestically, it is keen to get the technical know-how to make aircraft engines. India intends to produce more than 350 fighter jets for its Air Force and the Navy over the next 2 decades, which could be powered by General Electric's Engine 414. Top lawmakers in the United States have invited Indian Prime Minister to address the Congress when he visits the capital of the world's largest democracy. Remember, the rare opportunity is granted only to the country's closest allies. On the 23rd of June, the Indian Prime Minister will be hosted by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He will also interact with top chief executives and community leaders. Top U.S. leaders are looking forward to Indian Prime Minister's visit. Here's what the chairperson of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee said.
I wish him well in his visit to Washington. From our trade and economic engagement to our security cooperation to our people-to-people ties, the India-U.S. relationship is critically important. We have made considerable strides in recent years, and I hope for even more in the future.
Last May, Biden and Prime Minister Modi announced a bilateral initiative on critical and emerging technology dubbed as ICET. The two leaders directed their governments to work together on advanced tech, from AI to semiconductor chips and quantum computing, especially in defense. For more on this, we are now being joined by our diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibal, live from New York. Siddhant, give us a sense of the itinerary of Prime Minister Modi, the meetings that are planned. It's a power-packed visit.
Well, yes, Rohit, it's a power-packed visit, and the Indian Prime Minister reaches New York in a few hours from now, and he will be meeting members of the business community and will be warmly welcomed by the members of the Indian diaspora. Then, of course, the showstopper event, it's the Yoga Day celebration that takes place on Wednesday at the UN headquarters, and this will be a star-studded affair with many American influencers also participating alongside diplomats of over 190 countries. Now, essentially, that is the schedule here in New York. He travels to Washington. Then in Washington, that day itself, that's Wednesday, U.S. time, Eastern Standard Time, he will be having a dinner with the Joe Biden. Now, this is an intimate dinner. It is just the leaders and, of course, part of the delegations from both sides. Then, of course, the next day we will see the welcome at the White House, the state dinner, followed by the address at the U.S. Congress, then the diaspora event, and then the business community event. But all these events will essentially be celebrating and showcasing how both India and the U.S. have come closer in almost every sector possible. Now, we have been talking since morning about critical technologies, how both India and US see each other as trusted technological partner in terms of defense. That is one of the key pillar of India-US relationship. And also, just a short while ago, we got to know that the Indian Prime Minister has written, in fact, he has given an interview to Wall Street Journal and talked about how the trust level between the Indian and the American leadership is very strong now, and that is pretty evident as well. The last 2 decades of this century, the first 2 decades of this century, in fact, has seen how both countries have been making sure that the relationship goes in a very positive trajectory. In fact, last century was a very different century for India-US relationship, and this century is going to be a very different in terms of its positive trajectory. So essentially, this visit will be showcasing that, cementing the strong relationship between the two countries and making sure that how these two countries govern their relationship impact the world in a very positive way.
All right, Siddhant, reporting there that there will be a private dinner with Joe Biden that the Prime Minister will be participating in before that state dinner that happens the next day. That's an important piece of information, Siddhant, getting us from New York. Siddhant, thanks very much for joining us with those details.